My name is Sarah, and today's book review is on Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Right off the bat, I give this book a whopping 5 out of 5 stars, as well as this year's title as my favorite read of the year because, oh my god. So, non-spoilers. Our main character, Yadriel, he is a young boy who grew up in a Latinx community as well as a community full of brujos, which are brujos and brujas. So we have all of that going on for us. And this year he is determined to prove that he is a brujo because Yadriel is also trans and gay. With the help of his cousin Maritza, they perform the ceremony to begin the steps of him becoming a brujo. And one of those is summoning a spirit. Well, that leads us to young Julian Diaz, who, interestingly, was murdered. This is also on the same night where Yadriel and Maritza's cousin Miguel not only dies but goes missing, so we have connection between Julian and Miguel, meaning there's murders going on and they are connected, so the mystery is afoot. I love this book. I completely went over the moon. I just automatically fell in love with the characters, especially Julian and Yadriel, because their relationship together, I was like, this ship must be protected at all times. Maritza, she had this amazing personality that I could see myself being like the best friends with her. And Aiden Thomas, how he developed the Brujex community was so rich in this lore that I wanted more. And as well as him taking parts of the Latinx community, because I believe he is also Latinx as well as trans and queer. I just was like playing Easter egg hunts on all of these things because I was like, my family does this, we do this, I just did this last week. So I had so much fun with that. And by the time we reached the ending, where it's like the end, I was like, I need a tissue, people, because this book, even though it's like 300 plus pages, I was full of roller coasters just going up and up and up. This book was a really, really great read. Again, I give this book best read of the year. I just loved it so much. And if this was ever turned into a TV series, first of all, CW, keep your hands away from this precious gem, I warn you. I believe that maybe TNT could do this good, because they did Falling Skies, which ran on a little bit too long for my take, but they also do The Alienist, so they have some things going on for them that I think that they could possibly do a good adaptation. Because for Maritza, I got so much of a stylist feel. She just had that, again, personality. She was very sarcastic, quirky, but she also had that caring side to her. Yadriel, he had that early season of Scott where he knew what he wanted, but he was still cautious about certain things. But you know, he was just there for people as well. But Julian, oh my god, he has his own personality that I could not think of anyone that could go from. He was just, as Yadriel would say, this big ball of life, all this energy, all this fire within him that he was willing to protect those that are close to him. I was like, I need this as a TV show. But again, CW, keep your hands away from this. But TNT, I think y'all might want to start writing an unpiloted script, because I kind of want this as like a mini-series, like a good 9 episodes or so, because yes, this was beautiful. I love the characters, I love the world, both the Latinx and the Brujex community, the mystery that was behind this. I was like, who could have done this? And I just need my Yadriel and Julian, because again, I will protect the ship at all times. And that's as far as I can get to non-spoilers. Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, 5 out of 5 stars. Bye, non-spoilers. Spoilers. So as I was saying, Yadriel and Maritza, they come from a family of Brujexes, and Yadriel is again determined to prove that he is a brujo, and in doing so, him and Maritza sneak into the old church in a cemetery behind the family house, as one would, to perform the ceremony that are the first steps of him becoming a brujo. And first of all, that's not really easy, because at night we have a bunch of brujos patrolling the cemetery, as well as we have spirits that are just chilling around. I was like, Okay. Oh, by the way, these spirits can touch things, especially the closer it is to getting to the Day of the Dead, which is like around the corner. So these spirits can touch a lot of things. One of those spirits is actually Tito, who takes care of those flowers that people use for Day of the Dead. And this is where the power of Pan Dulce, or the power of the concha, comes into play, because, you know, they're like, hey Tito, here's this concha, it's your favorite kind, please don't tell my father that I'm out here doing stuff. Like, I don't care, just don't harm my precious flowers, because this guy refuses to pass on, and because he doesn't trust anyone to take care of the flowers. But on their way, he's like, leave the concha behind. I was like, okay, power of the concha. So how this world works is we have our brujos and our brujas, and when the young children come of age, they see their abilities. For the brujas, their portaje, or their kind of item that connects them to their goddess Lady Death, is a rosary that has a certain like medallion or pendant on it, and it contains animal blood because they use blood to activate their abilities in a way. And the brujas is for healing. Well, Maritza, she's kind of like the black sheep, as well as Yadriel, because she refuses to use animal blood since she is vegan, so that is by her choice. But for the brujos, they get, their portaje is a dagger, and with the blood they are able to sever this golden thread that connects spirits to their earthly items that tie them to this world, so they don't pass on. And it's to help them do that, just to go into the next life. But this world is so steeped in tradition that many people refuse to budge on it, which is really, really sad, because Yadriel, he is determined to prove to everyone that he is a brujo, because we also found out that earlier on, before he came out as a boy, as trans, his mom actually figured it out when she tried to have him heal something, and not only did it backfire, it really hurt him. And so everyone was like, oh, there's something wrong with him. And after he identified as a boy, things just didn't go so well, that he said that his Aquelarre, that, you know, the ceremony to welcome in the new brujos and brujas, it's just been postponed indefinitely. So this is why he is out in the middle of the night with Maritza to do his ceremony, because she made him a portaje, and he's gonna get Lady Death's blessing in secrecy, which should have been this grand thing with family around. And not only do that, but summon the spirit and release the spirit to prove, yeah, I am now a brujo, which is really, really sad, because this is supposed to be an important event for a young person. It's almost like having a, I guess you could say, a quinceañera for a young lady, and just having your family there. It's like, Yadriel, I'm sorry for you, mijo, but go do what you have to do to show them that you are a brujo. Everything goes well. He definitely does get Lady Death's blessing, which he's really excited about, and Maritza's like, we did it. But at the same time, they feel a death in the family. The Brujex community, they are kind of really connected with one another, that when someone dies, you can feel it. And someone does die, and it's their cousin Miguel, and the problem is they can't find his body or his portaje. Meaning, if he died and we can't find his body, we need to find his portaje, because his spirit is bound to that. And if they don't find that, and because Day of the Dead's coming around and all the past Brujex community members come back, then he won't be able to come back, and that's problematic, because we need to know who killed him, and we can't find his body or his portaje, and that's nerve-wracking on itself. This is the opportunity Yadriel needs to actually do the spirit and release it, because he believes if he can find Miguel's spirit in the portaje, he can not only get information on what happened to Miguel, but also, you know, like, release him. And so, like, okay, that's a plan. Let's field where he could possibly be, because they could probably sense him. And they go to this old church with like an old traditional Lady of the Dead statue, and they find a medallion. They're like thinking, it could be Miguel's, let's try. And Maritza's like, are you sure? And Yadriel's like, I got this, let's do it. And he does the summoning perfectly. It's like, he is a brujo. But then they find out that's not Miguel, because the spirit is a young wildfire named Julian Diaz, the bad boy from Yadriel Skill. And it's like, this relationship has blossomed in like the span of 10 minutes. We don't know what happened to Julian. All he knows is that night, him and his friends were out. One of his friends got jumped. He tried to help him. He got jumped in the process, and then he woke up dead. So Julian's been murdered, and again, we don't know where his body is. So that alone, with Miguel's disappearance, is suspicious on a high level. And Yadriel thinks, okay, we need to release Julian's spirit because we don't need him to go maligno, which is basically in terms going crazy for a spirit that they are no longer the friendly spirits that we have, but they are the evil spirits that people, you know, throw the salt at. And Julian's like, no, I need to make sure my friends are okay and I need to know what happened. And Yadriel's like, this is for the best. And he tries to release Julian, but it doesn't work because he has a strong will to stay here, and he's like, I guess you're stuck with me. And Yadriel's like, oh my god. And Maritza's like, we gotta figure something out, and we can't have homeboy just like, you know, running around by himself. So it's like, we have our trio right here, and we have a mystery on our hands because, again, Miguel's body in Portaje is missing, so we don't know if his spirit will come back. Julian, his body is missing, and he doesn't know how he died, which is apparently is like in less than an hour ago or so. And things are just connecting in ways that I am nervous about. Their banter when they first meet, I mean, again, this relationship blossomed in 10 minutes or so, but when Julian and Yadriel are alone for the very first time and they just start talking, I was like, yes, I am all for this. I'll come back for you in the morning. Yadriel started moving to place the medal on the altar with Lady Death. Wait, what? Julian's eyes went wide. You can't ditch me here. I can't take you home. Someone will see you, Yadriel told him. I'm not letting you abandon me in a haunted church. It's not haunted. If I'm here and I'm a ghost, then it's haunted, Julian shot back. Yadriel growled, that's not, and it's creepy. Julian thrust his hands toward Lady Death. She's not creepy, Yadriel argued, feeling defensive. Maritza, help me out here. He turned to her, but Maritza stood off to the side, an amused look on her face. He's got a point. You did raise him from the dead, so he's kind of your responsibility. When Yadriel spluttered indignantly, she continued, I mean, it's probably safer if you can keep an eye on him, don't you think? She suggested in a tone that was supposed to be nonchalant. But Yadriel knew better. Yadriel glared at her, his cheeks burning. He squeezed the necklace in his hand, trying to come up with a better reason to leave Julian in the church than not wanting to hide a hot boy in his room. A hot, dead boy. I can see the sparks flying already. So our step as to finding what happened to Julian's death, I mean, we're searching for clues, is starting off at school because Julian has some friends. And he's like, most likely they're not going to be at school, but Yadriel's like, I'm not skipping. And Julian's like, take me with you either way. And so we begin asking around, first of all, the local school body populace, was just never really good because, you know, I forgot how bad rumor mills are because there are these girls that hang out with Maritza and they're talking about Julian and his family, which he's trying to defend, but only Yadriel and Maritza can hear and see him. And it's, I was like, my heart was breaking for Julian so much that he got so mad that he kicked a soccer ball, scared some girls, and ran off. And Yadriel went to go check on him. It's like one of those things where you just want to be there for a friend. And so we don't find his friends, and we regroup back home trying to figure what's going on. And so I believe it's like the next day because Julian wants them to go check out the hiding place that him and his friends used to go at. And before that, because Julian is getting so much better at, you know, picking things up since it's getting closer to Day of the Dead, they go through Yadriel's old yearbook to try to get, like, you know, identification as to who these people are. So we have Rocky, Luca, Omar, and Flaka, who is also another open trans person that Yadriel really admired because she just didn't give a damn what people thought about her. And so, like, you know, he really looked up to her for her bravery on that. And while Yadriel turns his back on Julian for one split moment, and it's like he still has the yearbook, I was like, this ship must be protected at all times, because what Julian does for Yadriel, because the yearbook had his dead name in it. And when Yadriel turned back around, he saw Julian with a Sharpie marker being all nonchalantly throwing, you know, like the stuff around. It's like, yeah, you know what? We gotta go. We gotta sneak out of here. Let's go. Let's just go. What he did for Yadriel was that he wrote Yadriel's name in the yearbook. Yadriel, if you don't know that this guy likes you already, I don't know what. Because, again, this relationship, when they met in that 10-minute span, I was like, they are perfect together. Because Julian, again, he is this ball of life, this fire in him. And Yadriel, he's kind of like more grounded, but also still nervous about things. And not only is he there for Julian when he needs him the most, like, you know, in a very vulnerable moment, Julian brings out this inner strength in Yadriel that sometimes he didn't know that he had. He brings him this confidence. And again, Yadriel is that rock there for Julian when he is, again, vulnerable, when he's really hurt the most, when his emotions like take over and he just like has to have a break. I'm like, these two are perfect to each other. Well, Maritza's on the other end is like, so how was your sleepover? I would totally be like that as well. Again, how I was talking about how it's like, you know, Easter egg hunting for things that, you know, the Latinx community does, which I was like, oh, we did that last week. One of them is Yadriel's grandmother, his Lita, his abuelita, and she was downstairs, of course, cooking in the morning, with some music going on. That's like every other Saturday morning for us, especially with my mom, where she's making bacon and all that good stuff, and she's playing some Mexican music. Well, I was like, yes. When Yadriel came downstairs and his grandmother, he was cooking and everything, and she's playing music, and she's like, como la flor. I can't sing, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. And I was like, oh, Selena! It's like, yes. And another Easter egg is like, because it's getting closer to Day of the Dead, and the women are downstairs, they're cooking and everything, making the sweets, making the food for when the dead come over. And Yadriel is trying to cause like a diversion so Julian can like slippity slide out of this house. And he's like, I'm sick, I don't feel so good. All the women drop what they're doing, they rush towards them, and they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? And one woman was like, I got some Viva Peru in my purse, let me go get it. And his grandma was talking about the egg. I was like, Viva Peru, why does that sound familiar? Especially when this grandmother saying, when you get back, we're putting that on you, on your back. I was like, why does that sound familiar? Ah, Fix! Yes! We have that in our household as well, and we do use that. It's the cure for all, which Julian also says, ah, the cure for all ailments. I was like, yes, thank you very much. Now, when we go looking for Julian's friends, Maritza gets stuck with the boys because what's happening to Miguel, and no one can still find his body, which is very unsettling. Her parents make her take the boys, who are Donatello and Michelangelo, these precious little pit bull puppies. Well, they're not puppies, but they have the inner souls of puppies, and I love them so much. So she's walking around with two pit bulls, which is in a way kind of good protection because people don't want to mess with pit bulls. I like pit bulls. They have the most happiest smiles in the world, and they are so full of energy, and they just want to play. They are precious. And we do find the team in their hideout, and Julian, you can see the guardian side of him because he's like trying to instruct Yadriel to tell them they gotta go find a different place to hide, to lay low, because this isn't really safe right now after what happened to him. At least he knows his friends are safe, but he's also worried about their safety, which is very valid. And his friends, they aren't really sure which to take of Yadriel and Maritza because they just like randomly found them, and they're saying that they're recent friends of Julian, but they're like, we don't know you, besides Flacca knowing Yadriel. And Luca, he's really trying to be very informative, but Omar's very protective. He's like, I would say, the second Julian of the group, looking out for his friends. And through them, we found out that more kids have gone missing that are being written off as runaways. So, about 3 or so kids gone missing. We got Miguel missing. We got Julian missing. that is not good on so many levels. I'm saying we might need to ring the bell on this. And of course, the conversation could have gone a whole lot more better, but Yadriel wants to try to give us some information. She receives some information. Omar's being really stubborn. And doesn't it help that Yadriel and Maritza keep looking where Julian is, and he's getting really upset, and so he kind of takes his skateboard, which he was so worried about, and like smashes on the ground. And that gives Yadriel and Maritza the time to leave, because Omar, Rocky, Flocka, and Luca are really scared about that, so they take off. But as, you know, Yadriel's trying to talk some sense into Julian about that outburst, we also, you know, he has his temper sometimes. Luca shows up, and he realizes that Julian is dead, because either y'all two are crazy for talking out into the middle of the wind, or y'all can see Julian. And he's like, yeah, whenever he would get really upset, Julian would do the same thing with the skateboard. So he wants in. He wants to help them find Julian's body, or possibly the killer. And it's like, Yadriel and Julian are my precious ship. I must protect at all times. I will defend until my undying breath. But Luca, he is this adorable, precious little puppy that I will protect him as well, because especially when he becomes so good friends with Donatello and Michelangelo, he's like, when he sees them again, he asks Maritza, can I pet them? And she's like, go on ahead. They're so precious. But because of Luca, he was very insistent that we go see Julian's brother, Rio. It's like, apparently Julian had an argument with Rio, and he really didn't want to go see him. And you find out that he kind of was in the heat of things, but he figures that Rio would be better off without him. Again, he is that kind of guy that looks out for people and not much himself. So he, in his mind, figured if he was gone, Rio would be a whole lot better without him in his life. But after some consideration, he does tell Yadriel, sure, we'll go talk to Rio later. And so we might figure out either if someone had reported Julian, and at the same time, they could sneak in, grab some stuff of Julian's, because Donatello and Michelangelo, even though they failed at it, they were trained in, you know, tracking spirits. So we have like a 50-50. Again, we have another Easter egg hunt, because it's almost like 2 days before Day of the Dead, and everyone's trying to get the preparations ready. The Brujos are still looking for Miguel's body, which is really going out so well, because we can't find Jack. And Yadriel's trying to listen in, but you know, Lita draws him over to the kids table to help with making the candy skulls for, you know, the ofrendas and everything. One of the kids doesn't really want to make it, and he starts eating the skull candy. Well, then watch out, like but the chancla strikes. But also through that, we also find out that throughout the story, Lita was always asking Yadriel to help her look for these items that were apparently sacrificial daggers, these old ceremonial daggers, and she kept bringing them up, and one of the kids were like, what is that? And we find out that these were ceremonial daggers that were used that long ago, when the world was old and the gods were there. Already interesting story as it is. Now we find out that there's this god named Balaam, who was a jaguar god of Xibalba, the underworld. And he was there devouring spirits, but he wanted to come back to the human world and get spirits. So there are those who worship Balaam, and in doing so, they would take these daggers, sacrifice about 4 people, and in return of unleashing Balaam into the world of the living to collect spirits up here, he would grant them power, anything that they wished, but that would also, like, you know, corrupt them. And these spirits that he would take would never, you know, he would take them back down to Xibalba, but the spirits that the people sacrificed would be put in these amulets that would never be released, so they could never pass on. So while the kids are being scared, because that's getting a little too close to home, because Miguel is still missing, Yadriel's also thinking, and I'm thinking, could there be a connection here to the missing people and Julian? Because we have people missing, we have these daggers that Lita keeps asking for Yadriel to help find, and it's like, we can't find them. It's like, these connections, these dominoes are lining up too much that I am nervous about. And things aren't going so well for Julian either, because he starts having these seizures in the way, and there's blood blossoming on his shirt, and he's fritzing in and out for like a moment, and Yadriel's freaking out. Yadriel's like, yeah, when the spirit goes closer going to, you know, Maligno, they kind of relive their death, but they're thinking, this is too early. I mean, Julian literally died a few days ago. This does not happen. So we're like, what is going on? I would like answers. I don't want Julian fritzing in and out with the possibility of not returning. And so, like, okay, we gotta go, you know, see Rio. And while Yadriel is, like, checking the house, like, he's thinking, like, something's not right. And at least, you know, he has his portrait with him, and he, like, looks at it. And at the same time, we hear Lita and his dad and his Theo Cuttress, walk in with supplies, and he's like, and it's like his Theo sees him, and through this whole story we find out that Theo Cuttress, he is also like a black sheep. So it's Maritza, Yadriel, and Theo Cuttress. And Cuttress, he is a Brujo, but he has little to no magic abilities that he never got to go through his Aquilar as well. And so his right was passed down to his younger brother, who is Yadriel's father. So in a way, Yadriel saw his Theo as more of a father figure, because his father was like still coming to terms with things. He's still trying to get used to Yadriel being Yadriel. But when Theo Cuttress saw Yadriel with his portahé, not only was he really happy, proud for him, he also caused a diversion so they wouldn't see him with his portahé, giving Yadriel a time to run out. But in that moment, that support that he got from his Theo, he just like had this strength to him, this big burst of energy that he was really, really happy. Of course, he went to go tell Maritza and Julian, and Julian's like, awesome, dude. And Maritza's like, are you sure you won't tell anyone? And Yadriel's like, yeah, Theo is like the one guy that's always there for me. And Maritza's like, the only adult, but you know. So that was a very proud moment for Yadriel. We meet up with Luca to go see Rio, and you know, things are going off on a wonderful first impression, because first of all, Luca warns them, yeah, by the way, you might want to keep close to the truth because Rio can smell out lies. And we're like, awesome. And then Julian has to put in his 2 cents. Oh, and he doesn't like dogs. We have Donatello and Michelangelo. Awesome. So we're off to a great start. We do see Rio, and Rio is, you know, a little suspicious, even though Luca is there, because Rio is like Julian. We don't really open up too much to strangers, but he takes care of his own, especially Julian's friends. And so with Maritza staying outside with the dogs, we start asking Rio some questions, trying to not raise suspicion. And that's not really going so well, because Yadriel really wants to defend Julian, because he realizes how stubborn Rio is, just like his brother, and he just can't stand all these things that Rio is saying with Julian literally right there after he grabbed the shirt for the tracking, that he tries to defend Julian, but they just don't go so well that Julian storms out after making a scene, literally, and Rio's like telling Yadriel to get out. I'm like, okay, we need to go. We got the shirt. And we kind of let Julian blow off some steam, because again, him and his brother really don't know how to show emotion, and they keep it really bundled up inside, showing the strong in them, but everything else they just keep it hidden. So Julian needs a few moments, okay? He needs time to process what he's feeling right now, because he's really emotional, and Yadriel's there for him, while Maritza's like, are you sure it's still okay? Yadriel's like, he's fine. We go back to the place where Julian and his friends were jumped, and we try tracking things down. It doesn't go so well. We find his missing tacos, but besides that, the plan to track Julian's body and possibly Miguel's is a fail. So like, we're back to square one. When we get back to the cemetery, I'm thinking it's raining. That's not good. That has to be foreboding at its finest. But we get there, and Julian's like staring at a spirit, and Yadriel's like, oh, that's just Tito. But something isn't right about Tito, because he's standing there, he smells, he doesn't look so good, and his mouth is open. It's like, oh, Tito went maligno. and he attacks Yadriel. I'm like, Yadriel, Julian, do something. Which he does because as a spirit, with it getting closer to the Day of the Dead, he can touch things. So Julian tackles Tito. They're in a scuffle. Yadriel tries to use his Portahe. He gets it glowing, but Tito overpowers Julian. He attacks Yadriel. Things are going on so well. He's on top of Yadriel. I'm like, Julian, where are you? We need help. And then all of a sudden, Tito gets released. But then that means that there's a Brujo within the area, and they come check up on Yadriel, and it's his dad. I'm like, his dad sees Yadriel's Portahe. He said, you were blessed by Lady Death, because he saw it actually glow when he used the blood, and Yadriel's like, yes, I was. And Yadriel's dad just, he's like, I am so sorry, mijo, because he realized that his son went to do his ceremony alone with only Maritza in secret. And again, this was like supposed to be the proudest moment for like a family member besides going through the Aquelarre. He's like, I should have been there. I should have been there by your side when you do this. I am so proud of you, mijo. And he says, my son will be there for his Aquelarre. We will wait for your mother, because she had passed away a year ago. We will wait until your mother is with us so we can tell the whole community. And my son is going to do his Aquelarre. And I was like, his father, through this whole book, you could see him still trying to struggle with some things. But after this moment, he was like, yes, you will be a Brujo, mijo. But also through that, Julian sees the possibility of what he could become. And so he asks Yadriel to release him, because he does not want to go maligno as Tito did. And Yadriel's like, he is already in love with Julian. Okay, he is in love with this boy, and he doesn't want him to go yet. Like, we still have time. And Julian's like, I don't want whatever's left of me that's good in me to turn into that. And so we're like, let's wait until midnight tomorrow. We'll make tomorrow the best day of your life. And tomorrow night at midnight, when the spirits return to the living, we will do it. And so I was like, my poor babies. No, what do we have to do to make Julian living again? So we begin the last best day of our lives, and in doing so, we get Maritza to cover Yadriel for skipping school. And they're like, okay, so Julian, what do you want to do? And first of all, they go to the grocery store, the little shop on this corner, and we're getting all of his favorite foods. And then Yadriel gets a text, and Julian's like, hey, what's that? It's like, it's just the location to where the bonfires could be. And Julian's like, yes. Yadriel's like, no. Julian's like, I'm the one dying again. I'm becoming more undead. Yes, we are going to the bonfire, and we're doing it in style. I'm like, Yadriel, what does he mean by in style? And by that, I'm with Yadriel. It's like, this is stealing. But Julian's like, hey, I have the keys. My dad left it to both me and my brother. And you're not stealing it. I am giving you permission. And by doing that, we are stealing a Stingray. A Corvette Stingray outside of Rio's apartment slash house slash place, because that's where it is. And I'm like, I'm just gonna slouch real low in the back. Julian's like, we're going, and they're sitting in the car. I'm like, no. But Julian's like, yes, we are. And he turns the key in the ignition, and we gotta take off because Rio hears that. Julian's like, yeah. And Yadriel's like, I am so dead. And we take off to the bonfire. And that moment, when they're with each other, I am like, this is what they should have for the rest of their lives. Because, again, their relationship blossomed within the 10 minutes, and it just continues to flourish. And while they're there at the party, just enjoying themselves, because it's like kind of like a Halloween bonfire, and people are wearing somewhat costumes, so no one notices. Yadriel just like dancing with Julian, and it's like this precious moment that I'm like, I would be on the side chilling, drinking my Mexican Coke, and just like enjoying the view. I'm like, they deserve each other. And if Maritza was there, I would clink the drink, and we'd be like, yes. Of course, cops show up. They break up the bonfire, and Julian takes Yadriel to a special place just to watch the scenery, the sunset, the ocean, the waves. And he like asks him in Spanish, where I'm like, I gotta get my Google Translate to see what he asked him. He's like, may I steal a kiss from you? And I was like, a kiss on the car, watching the sunset, with this being his last day? I was like, oh babies, no, what do we have to do? Like, he's about to go in the next few hours. Like, what do we have to do to make Julian alive? We return back to the cemetery to not only welcome back the dead to the living, but also to release Julian. And we go back to the old church. Yadriel makes an ofrenda for Julian, and it's like this very touching moment, this very touching goodbye. And he really doesn't want to do it, but Julian's like, I am ready. I won't resist. I'm ready to move on. It's like, no. But the moment that Yadriel prepares to cut the thread between the medallion and Julian, it doesn't work, and Julian is, as well as me, as Yadriel, freaking out. It's like, I am not resisting. I'm saying it's okay, but then he has another seizure, and he freaks out. And not only that, we hear the gong, the bell ring, announcing that the spirits are returning, and Maritza shows up saying, I just got a text. Miguel isn't there. So, Julian disappeared. Miguel's not here. Something's not right, and they can sense something going on in the church. And so, Yadriel, using his portahe and the thread, we find a secret room underneath the church, which I'm like, that is bad on so many levels. But Julian is down there. We are going. He's down there suffering. And so Maritza and Yadriel go. Not only do they find Julian in his spirit form still, but they find these altars with people on them. We find the missing people. We find Miguel, who is sadly dead. And we find Julian, who is still alive. His body is still alive. But we're like, what is going on? And we have the big reveal as to who was killing these people, because the sacrificial daggers are what are in the bodies inside Julian. They're sucking up the life force, and we remember what Lita said about when the blood fell into this pool of sorts in like the underground, the caves or sort, because that was how big the Aztecs and Mayans were for worshipping some deities. This is a sacrificial ceremony to release the spirit, the jaguar god of Balaam. What's going on upstairs right now? There are a bunch of spirits here now that could be possible victims to Balaam. And who killed these people? Who brought them down here? Who took Julian? Who took the daggers? What's going on? And then coming out of the light, wearing the full headdress, the traditional headdress and outfit and everything, the regalia, is Theo Cuttress. First of all, I was like, I knew it! Because people, when you push someone to the side just because they don't have the requirements for an old tradition, something bad is going to happen. And that is Theo releasing Balaam, because this is the new way I will have the power of Brujo that hasn't been seen in thousands of years. And these people will be sacrificed, and they will see the wrongs of their ways, and I shall lead them into the new lights. I was like, we need to stop you right now. Yadriel, Maritza, y'all got this. I'm gonna go summon up my own gods. Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl, we need your help right now, because Balaam is about to rise from Xibalba. And Julian is slowly dying, because he's still alive, but he's slowly dying. And so we need to hurry. We need to hurry, because literally we see this pool, and we see the jaguar moving in that stuff, in that gunk. I'm like, first of all, no thank you. Second of all, that is scary to visualize in my mind. I don't want that right now. So we're trying to stop Theo. And he's about to finish the ceremony. Julian is in pain. And Maritza and Yadriel, they're fighting him off. But this is a big dude. Yadriel's trying one more time to speak to Theo after telling him, he was finally accepted by his dad. And I guess that's like the last straw of Theo Cuttress's humanity, because he goes full evil. And he's like, sorry, Yadriel, this is what it has to be. And he gets the medallion, the amulet that has the souls in them, and at the same time he kind of trips. There's like a tussle, a kerfuffle, and Theo Cuttress trips and he falls into the pool, and Balaam pulls him into Xibalba. That's the end of Theo. But we still have a problem. We have 3 dead people, and Julian is on the verge of dying. And even though we get the dagger out of him, we're like, he's still dying, Maritza. And she's trying to find her portahe, because she's thinking we could still heal him as long as there's a heartbeat. But that moment between Yadriel and Julian, Yadriel's begging him to stay awake, and Julian is like talking to him, and then he dies. I'm like, please, that did not just happen right now. He did not die, Maritza. But again, she doesn't have any blood for the healing, and she's like, he died. I'm like, no. And Yadriel's getting the message. know as well, because after seeing how Theocatris summoned Balaam, he cuts his hand and he calls out to Lady Death, and she does appear in this flash of golden light, and he's begging her to bring not only Julian but the other people back, and she's like, I cannot undo what has been done, but she says, you have the power too. And he sees the amulet that still has the power, that still has all the souls in them, Julian's soul, Miguel's soul, the other two people. And there's this mention that how, because you know how there has to be balance in the magic system, that is the reason why the Brujah's people use animal's blood, because back then they used to use human blood, but that took so much energy from them. And it's been like thousands of years since a Brujo has actually summoned a person back from the dead. So here he is, and she said, Lady Death said, you understand the cost for doing this? And he's like, I do. And it's basically a life for a life. And Yadriel brings the spirits back in return for his. I'm like, no one is dying on my watch, people. No one. And Maritza's the same way, because the moment Julian wakes up, he realizes he is alive. Maritza's like fiercely yelling at Lady Death, who is now gone. And she doesn't use animal's blood, because here is Yadriel bleeding, dying on the floor, barely hanging on to life, and Julian's like begging him to stay awake as well. Maritza takes that blood, she uses her Portahe, and she heals Yadriel enough to save him, and she's like, take that, bitch, and it wasn't even animal's blood. And then she passes out. And Miguel's awake, and he tries to check, he checks on Maritza, he tries to check on Yadriel, and Julian's like, you're not getting anywhere near him. He's like, I'm his cousin. He's like, wait, you're Miguel? He's like, yeah, how do you know? Go get help! And I was like, yes, help. We need help. Maritza's fine. Yadriel is not fine. Julian has a hole in his chest from where he got stabbed. Oh my god. These last 20 pages had my heart racing, especially for Julian, because help does show up. He's not ready to let, Yadriel go, even though he knows Yadriel's dad's there with his grandmother, his abuelita. And there's like, we have the hospital, we have the ambulance on the way, and Julian does not want to be separated from Yadriel. He's like shouting, saying that you're hurting him. It's like this very emotional moment that he eventually convinces them to let him go to the same hospital, and like, he wants to check on Yadriel, but dude, you still have a hole in your chest. And apparently the hospital nurses knows that as well, because they kind of sedate him once he gets to the hospital after trying to go find Yadriel. And especially when he wakes up and his brother's there with his friends, and he's like, I have to go find Yadriel. And like, dude, you're staying in bed. Even Luca like jumps on him to make sure he stays in bed. Well, like, the room over Yadriel, thank God, is fine. And his family is there, and Maritza's also there, getting all mad at him for, being the hero, sacrificing himself, making us worry about you. And of course he's asking for, is Julian fine? And they're like, yeah, he's awake. He's actually in the other room over. And he's doing the same thing. He's finding his way out of the room. He goes over. There's Julian trying to get past his brother and his friends. And they see each other. And it's that Julian like ran into Yadriel's arms and like, you're alive, you're fine, you're safe. And Yadriel's doing the same thing. I'm like, oh. And then there's Maritza, dude, y'all know we can see your asses? I'm like, Maritza, don't ruin the moment. This is beautiful. And it's like, they're fine, they're okay. Julian is alive, Miguel's alive, the two people that died are alive, everyone is fine. Not so much for Theo, he's down in Xibalba. It's like, and the way this ends, it is like almost the end of Day of the Dead. The spirits are there for the Aquilar. Maritza and Yadriel are there as well. Julian is the first outsider to be brought in to watch this happen. Everyone's looking at Yadriel because, again, Julian's like, dude, you said a Brujo hasn't done this like thousands of years, and you're not only brought back one person but four, so you're kind of like a god, more like a superhero. And Yadriel's like, don't say that. And so they see his mother. She's so proud of him. She's looking at Julian. Like, we got a lot of things to talk about. Wink, wink. And he's like, wink, wink. And Yadriel's like, stop it. But at the end, Julian is there. And he's there to watch not only Maritza do her Aquilar, but especially Yadriel's. She become an official Brujo. Everyone is there. All the spirits, all the living. They're there to see it happen. And Yadriel's like, this isn't the end. This is the chapter to a new beginning. I was like, it is, Mio, it is. And that is the end of spoilers. As you can see, I loved this book. I loved Julian and Yadriel's chemistry. I loved how they were basically one of the same, how they made the whole person together, how Julian was this, again, ball of energy, and yet Yadriel was this rock that grounded him together. Maritza, she was the best friend that any person would be honored to have. She was there for them through thick and thin. Julian's friends, even though we only saw a little of them, especially Ria, they were the people that made Julian who he was. He was, again, this protective person that was very loyal. He was willing to do whatever it took to ensure the safety and happiness of his friends. Thus, you know, not really looking out for himself, which Yadriel would point out every now and again. It's like no one deserved Julian. He was this person. And it's like, oh my god, I love the character so much. I suspected Theo, but it's like how Aiden Thomas wrote this mystery out. We did not have any clues pointing to him. There were hints. Our legs kept going cold. It was a mystery to the very end what was going on. I really enjoyed it. Again, I also loved the lore that went so much into the Brujhex community, especially how it went to Lady Death and Balem and to Xibalba, as well as Day of the Dead. I loved how this world was painted. I loved the magic system, how the rules were in place. We have this like ending to where now how things ended at the end of the book, that there is possible ways for the Brujhex community to start changing, because they were also steadfast in the way of traditions. But after how things happened, first with Yadriel and with what happened to Theo, we have a possibility of them now slowly changing their ways, opening things up to the outside world so they can adapt more and to secure the future. Julian is alive. He is there with Yadriel. I'm happy about that. And if this was turned into a TV series, 9 episodes, TNT, please write the unpiloted script to promote, to try to get out there to film the first pilot to see how this goes, because I would love to see this on the screen. It's like this world, these people, Julian and Yadriel, Maritza, the team. It's just, yes. I would love to see this on my screen. I would so love to see it. And yeah, Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Whopping 5 out of 5 stars and best read of the year. My name is Sarah, and bye!